Hey guys, so today we're going to talk a little bit about collaboration and why I think it's quite important that we have I'm not saying the best, but a very decent at least connection to our coworkers. So let's get into it. Now this may seem to be a very fair, I don't know if I would call it obvious thing, because just let me walk you through it. You see, one of the things that is very iconic, if you will, for software development is that you spend or rather that's at least what people think, is that they spend quite a lot of time alone. You spend your time with your computer, you sit in front of your monitor, you write code, and that sort of thing. And to a great extent that is absolutely true, but I would also like to touch on something that I think goes missing in all of this. You see, one of the most dysfunctional strategies for running a IT company, in fact, any type of large-scale project, is this idea of silos. Now, what is a silo? Well, silos is I wouldn't say dysfunctional, but this is a way of working that is fairly popular in I'm not going to say standard, but large corporations and the way that we've been working so far. And the idea is that you have a group of people who are responsible for a certain task. Let's say that you have a design department, you have an engineering department, you have sales, you have business, like all of these things. And what I think you should know is that the trend these days, which comes with agile development and all of this good stuff, is moving towards having what we call autonomous teams. And an autonomous team is basically just that you create a group of people who represent the different departments that are necessary within a product. So instead of having one engineering department, one design department, etc., you actually have a designer, an engineer, a business representative, and so forth in the same group of people, and they collaborate with each other. Now, what ties into this is that you have this collaborative platform. And between us software developers, this is even more important, because you will get to a point, and if you work for any type of, I'm just going to go out and say it, I can't really imagine a product that is money making that is so small that a single person can keep all of that in their head. You see, when you work, you will specialize and have an interest in certain areas, and you will be exposed to different stories, different tasks that gives you knowledge of certain parts of that system. But you will also have areas where you don't work as much. You will have areas when you're working where you basically have no knowledge whatsoever. And that's where this collaborative mindset comes in. Because if you create this working environment, or if you have a working environment where each person works fairly much in isolation, you will avoid, in my experience, you will avoid interacting with your coworkers, or maybe it's even discouraged to interact with your coworkers. And the result is simply that things take longer, it takes you longer to figure things out, and the code suffers for it. Because, as you can imagine, if 3 different people are all working on the same code base, but they don't really collaborate and they kind of do their own thing, it very quickly becomes this situation where you're doing something with one mindset, the second person is doing something with their mindset, then the third person and the fourth person, and so on and so on and so on. And what's even nicer about, well, I wouldn't say that's nice, but how that can manifest itself in my experience is that you get a very toxic environment, because if you don't reach a consensus on how to structure your work, you are going to start fighting each other over, and it can be the silliest things in the world. Should you use inheritance? Should you use this style of working? Should you use that? All these little things. And all of this comes down to you having a collaborative and cooperation type of mindset. Collaboration and cooperation. It boils down to that, and having a good working relationship to your coworkers. Now, I would personally claim that it it is not a good working environment. I would even or go as far as to say that I don't think I personally, at least, would take a job in a company where collaboration or pair programming or anything of this, where this isn't really encouraged. Because if it's not, then you're basically an island within the company. And being an island within the company in a field which, when it comes to programming, it's not a good thing, guys. As I said, the system is most likely already so big that you need help from your coworkers from time to time. And if you have that friction between yourselves, that's one of the first things I immediately want to completely dispel when I start working at the company. I need to have a good working relationship with my coworkers, because, as I said, if I feel that, oh no, I don't really want to talk to that person because, we don't really get along or something like that, immediately my work suffers and my job becomes trickier and my knowledge becomes less, because I can't tap into that person's understanding of the system, just as they will most likely not come to me for my insight on the parts that I'm good at. And without that connection between us, the product suffers. It does. And things slow down, because software is, although you may not think it, it's extremely important that you have this collaborative environment. I mean, if you look at your most likely favorite libraries out there in the world, and open source and so forth, there's a lot of people involved in a lot of different projects, and you need to have, in my experience, the same sort of mindset when you just work at any company. So I think, and this kind of goes out to the job providers or and managers and so forth, I think it is vital that you take your team building and take these sorts of things seriously. And trust me, it is not enough to have a once a year company picnic or something like that. You have to have this on a daily basis, because the only meaningful connections humans can sustain, at least in my experience, are with the people that they interact with on a daily basis. In other words, it's more important to have these small conversations and have lunch together and all of this. I mean, at my company we have a ping pong table, and once a day we play a little bit of ping pong just as a group, to just have a bit of interaction, because otherwise we sit by ourselves for the entire day. And just having that small interaction encourages these small conversations. And we humans are social herd type of people. We need to have this in order to feel comfortable in the environment. And that comfort is going to pay itself back 100 times over, as opposed to isolating everybody in a cubicle. Have a great day.